Welcome to Career Happy Hour. I'm Andrew Beach, teacher of self-education. I help professionals communicate value to find great opportunities faster, whether you're working or not. That's through a pragmatic process of branding, planning, and effective networking, meaning communications. And one of the topics I have for today is related to leadership. I work with a fair number of leaders, and there's really two things that I've identified that are sorely missing in today's leadership. So this will be maybe a very simple topic today. If you have any questions, certainly you can put those in the comments. This is a live stream, so you might be watching the replay, which is fine. We encourage you to make contributions in every way possible with the comments or the live stream chat. Either way, if you have any questions at all, please put them in the comments or the chat. This is Career Happy Hour for a reason. This is a chance for us to provide you some value, answer some of your questions, and see how we can make this a vibrant community that serves each other. One of the ways we do that is by placing our LinkedIn profile on the platform you're joining from. This gives anyone that's joining the session, sometimes through cross chat, sometimes that does work, at least it does on YouTube, and you'll see in there somebody's LinkedIn profile. And when you do that, what you're doing is you're saying to other members of this community, this Career Happy Hour community, that you are indeed going to say yes when someone wants to network with you. What I found is networking is, even with 800 million plus accounts on LinkedIn, it's still really hard to get someone to say yes when it comes to a network meeting. And I get plenty of outreach, both inbound and outbound, and it still is hit and miss, problematic in many cases in getting things nailed down so that you can actually have a conversation with a human being that's got a pulse and a purpose that might align with yours. So that's the whole point of this particular broadcast every Friday, is to have a forum, a place where you can do that, where you can meet other people, you can share information, and certainly putting your profile in the chat doesn't indicate anything other than the fact that you're open to networking with other members of this community. Now, let's exercise best practice, of course. You don't want to reach out and try to sell things to people. This is a networking community. So really, part of this is expanding the community as well. Putting it out there, regardless of the platform you're on. Perhaps you share this out with a couple of friends, or you invite them to the stream on Friday. You can go right to my LinkedIn profile, which is pretty easy to find, Andrew Beach, in most places. If you search that in LinkedIn, you'll find that. But if you share this out, you could do it either publicly through the platform you're on, or you can send it in private message. Either way, just send the folks to my LinkedIn profile. That's where the live stream will actually happen. It happens on many other channels as well, like YouTube and Facebook, as well as Twitter, and now Instagram. I do that on my mobile device. So those people get a different look and feel than what other people get. And you may not see the visuals, but certainly you get the same content. So whatever platform you're on, share this out with people who you think might find value. Now, what kind of questions might you want to ask? Well, you could ask anything related to career, leadership in this case. That's our topic today. Interviewing, market planning, career mapping, and anything related to networking or interviewing, professional communications, personal branding, anything that's on your mind. Not only that, but if you have a question and you don't want people to see it, because you don't want people to know that you're, in some way, maybe not up to par. I mean, I don't want to say it that way, but there is a way for you to put a question into the back end of Restream, which is my streaming service here. That link is in the description below. It'll say here, join me live to get free coaching, which you can. We activate your webcam and we come up side by side, and I provide you hands-on coaching during today's session. If that's what you need, if you have a special need and you're willing to come on and you're courageous that way, then certainly use that link in the description during the time, of course, that our live stream is actually live, which is Friday, 3 p.m. Pacific time. So Friday, 3 p.m. Pacific time, typically for about half an hour, maybe a little longer, you'll have a chance to come on live, and I'd be happy to do what I can to help you through a situation that you might be wrestling with. Having coached, north of, I lost count, I think at 10,000 in group and individual settings, but I've been through a lot of different things, seen a lot of different scenarios, and might have a perspective that'd be valuable to help you through your situation. So if that's you, then either join me on Instagram. There's a way to do that. You can request to join the stream, or here through Restream, use the link you see in the description. That said, let's jump into today's topic, which interestingly enough is kind of a segue really to the topic we had last week, which is this concept of identifying your ideal. So if you haven't seen that video, go back and watch last week's stream. It's about identifying this ideal for you, or a utopian situation, especially when you have a lot of different options. And in that particular stream, something occurred to me, and that is often we have a definition of what we think a good leader might be, or the type of leader we want to be when we become a leader. So we have aspirations to a certain extent to become leaders. And one of the things that dawned on me is there's a couple of things that even in the leaders that I've seen that I feel kind of have it together, they often have a difficult time with a couple of things. And there's really two things that I believe that many leaders are missing out on. So let's dive into this topic, and we will go ahead and talk through it. And so the two items, as I see it, are forgiveness and gratitude. Forgiveness and gratitude, and they're kind of interrelated to a certain extent. The two qualities that I believe many leaders are missing out on first starts with forgiveness. And sometimes that's odd for people to think about. And you might be saying, well, what do you mean? What do you mean by forgiveness, really? Well, I know plenty of people that have memories that will not quit, meaning they remember every little thing that's ever happened in the context of your relationship since it started. And often, I can think of people that are like that. It's hard for them to let go of things for good reason too. They may have been injured in some way. And so there's really two sides to this concept of forgiveness. And the first is yourself, forgiving yourself for things that you have done where there may not be an opportunity to reconcile. Okay. So there's that side of the equation. And, we won't get too much into that, but the idea is forgiving yourself is often where it starts. There's plenty of things where, maybe I've opened my mouth and said something that wasn't very sensitive. I have this characteristic of telling people what I think at the time I think it, when it may not be appropriate for me to do so. And as a coach, it's taken me maybe several years to kind of massage my capabilities that way. And as a leader, you may be experiencing those same things, is that it's really difficult for us to first forgive ourselves in order to forgive others. And we hold ourselves in higher regard. And certainly I'm my own worst critic. There is no doubt in my mind on that one. And so there's, mistakes that you've made, and certainly things that you've done, and perhaps holding yourself to a higher standard, that you give yourself some forgiveness, a little bit of self-grace, if you will. So that's the internal side. And then the external side is where many leaders, I think, are unwilling to forgive other people's mistakes or things that they've done to create an environment where mistakes are not honored or failure is not acceptable. That people, at least, I think some people feel to a certain extent that there's this concept of perfection that has to be achieved, and it doesn't matter how long it takes, nor does it matter what sacrifice needs to be made, as long as it's how would you say, perfect, right? That something turns out perfect. And so if you live in that kind of unusual situation, one thing you can do as a leader is to say, you know what, I'm going to have a short memory. The long memory is what causes a lot of pain for a lot of us, is that we hold on to things that may have happened 4 years ago or 3 years ago, thinking that they're true. And often that kind of thought pattern is going to create anxiety and stress and lack of forgiveness. And often we just need to acknowledge that there's maybe something didn't turn out the way it was supposed to, that you have a short memory, and you just move forward from there. And so I've got some notes, and so I'm certainly referring to those so that I don't lose my track. But if I was to just carry around all of the things that people had done to me or done to the organization that I was a part of, or a project I was working on that didn't turn out positively for me, then I'm allowing that experience to consume some of my mental and emotional energy, which I don't think is very productive. So letting that stuff go, there's lots of exercises to do that. You could certainly look them up, but I really believe in person to person, P2P, if you will, person to person, sitting down with somebody and doing your very best to reconcile. As a leader, it's your responsibility to take that first step. It's not up to the person that reports to you or the other members of your team. It's up to you. And you don't have to be in a position of management or authority to exercise that kind of strength. If you have the capacity to forgive, it's often harder. Yeah, you know what? It's funny. I was just thinking about this. It's harder to forgive somebody than to just be friends or nice or even love somebody. I think it's much easier to love somebody than forgive something that they did that's hard. However, there is freedom. There's freedom in forgiveness. And that means if you can see fit to forgive others, then they likely will see fit to forgive you, and you have reconciliation. So in leadership, that's something I think that's sorely missing, is that so many people are looking for something to blame or an excuse to live on or something like that. And honestly, just forgiving and looking at things, I think, a little more forward and objective is certainly not a bad way to go. Just focus on repair, reconciliation, and what does it take to get to those conditions where forgiveness is received without conditions. So that's the other part of this, is sometimes we as leaders may experience forgiveness, but we don't actually, we put conditions on it. Oh, I'll forgive you if, right? Or I'll forgive you when, or what does that look like where, you know what, it's open hands, nothing up my sleeve. I forgive you and I don't demand anything from you. I don't seek conditions or things that might inhibit our capacity to reconcile. So as a leader, I think that's certainly something that is sorely, sorely missing. So the other side of this, I think, is kind of combined with forgiveness, and that is gratitude. And that may sound trite, and a lot of people talk about gratitude and how important it is and how you should exercise this thing called gratitude. And to me, it's more using it as a, how would you say it? A continual tool to support your people. So as a continual tool to support your people, you thank everything. You thank them for the small things. You thank them for the big things. And it's not just telling. Sometimes telling is just okay for some people. Other times it's written. You're putting your reputation behind somebody else's, as long as it's certainly within your corporate guidelines. But often we look at gratitude as something that's just intrinsic to us individually. And I don't think there's anything better than recognizing somebody and telling them you're thankful for their contributions. You appreciate them. I mean, when was the last time? Let me ask you this. In fact, put it in the chat or the comments down below. When was the last time, out of the blue, without having to be asked, or perhaps without having some major event take place, that a leader that you had actually took the time to go out of their way and say, thank you for your contributions. I see what you did there and I appreciate it. When was the last time that happened? And if you're the type of person that can remember exactly when that happened, or maybe that happened recently, then I'd like to ask you a different question. How often with that leader did that actually happen? Was it like once every year, once every 2 years? We all have performance evaluation systems of some kind, right? We're being measured in some capacity. So what do you do with that? Are you just giving the gratitude or the thanks or the recognition because you feel like you're supposed to, or do you genuinely, authentically go out of your way to say thanks to people? So think through that. When was the last time you received that from somebody else And when was the last time you gave that to somebody else? I believe those that forgive much gain much, and those that demonstrate gratitude feel thankful for just about everything that they had. And so, just before this stream, I just started, making a list of all the things that I'm thankful for. And this isn't Thanksgiving or anything, but as a daily effort in my mind, I need to perhaps wrestle with all the different feelings that I have and the emotions. And I need to press pause and say to myself, okay, I know I have all these things going on. I know I have all these challenges or have these things I'm wrestling with. Let's just take a moment and see what I do have rather than what I don't have. And so I just started making a list. The first thing I put on it was all things. I'm thankful for all things, good or bad, right or wrong, whatever they are. I am thankful that I've had the experiences that I've had, the education I've had, the people I've come to know. I'm thankful for all things. And, the little things and the good things. I'm thankful for Good Friday and the sacrifice that was made for me by another. I'm thankful that on Good Friday, 3 years ago, we got our rescue dog, Avery. I'm thankful for sunshine. I'm thankful for rain. Funny enough, rain refreshes, it restores, it cleanses. So there's a lot of value to both sunshine and rain. I'm grateful for a loving family. And so you can start thinking about, I'm grateful for my eyesight. That even since high school, I've had either 20/20 or 20/15 vision. And now I'm not so close to high school anymore. And I'm thankful that I have good eyesight. Now my hearing may not be so good, and certainly I'm working on that. But listening, hearing, two different things. We could probably do another session on that if there's certainly if there's any topic you want me to cover and give you some perspective on, as one of our career happy hour sessions. I'm happy to do that. So if you have suggestions or questions, certainly put those in the comments. So saying and doing, just like forgiveness. There's one thing to say it and one thing to do it. I've seen this happen both with gratitude, that it came in and it felt authentic, but it was just one of those things that was on the to-do list for that day. And it felt that way, not at the time, but afterwards. So when you're doing forgiveness or gratitude, make sure it's authentic, it's genuine, that you're indeed thankful, or you're indeed, attempting to reconcile a relationship in some capacity. And as a leader, I think you'll find that you'll start building this little thing called trust. And trust, in a lot of ways, isn't as measurable, and it's hard to know whether or not you have it, other than the fact that people almost always are more loyal. They're also more consistent in their delivery of results because they believe that you indeed have their back. And there's nothing better feeling than that for a leader and for members of that team, that you indeed have been forgiven, and that you have gratitude in your day-to-day, that it becomes part of the culture of your organization. So that's really the two things that I've seen recently that have been sorely lacking in leadership today, and that's forgiveness and gratitude. Recognizing that indeed we've just been through a pandemic, right? And we're kind of at the tail end of that. There's still some grumblings about another variant, but I'm not a doctor. I'm not here to go over that. But the idea is sometimes we aren't clear on how people are experiencing this situation, this pandemic, and what they've been through. And how they're responding to that is going to be different from person to person. I'm grateful for this image, by the way, behind me. This is Manzanita Beach in Oregon. My family and I have been going there for several decades, and fond memories in this particular geography. And so you certainly likely have similar places that you have fond memories of, or a little nostalgia, and be thankful for those things. So those are the two components that we talked about in terms of forgiveness and gratitude, and how we can experience those on a day-to-day. Again, certainly if you have any questions, you can go ahead and put those in the comments box below. Let's see if we have any other things to share here. There's my LinkedIn profile. Good. So thank you for attending today. And I'm grateful for everyone that shows up to these streams and provides me feedback that they've actually gotten maybe just a little bit of value out of these Friday sessions. And I do my best to create a little bit of content or an idea or thought that you might use to leverage defining for yourself what does a good leader look like to you? On the flip side, what kind of leader do you want to be if you're aspiring to be one? And making a list of those characteristics. I like emulating the people that have led me. And when I think back on some of the leaders that I appreciate, often they have they see the possibility, they see the potential, and they give you a shot. So for me, I would like to have a leader that is willing to give someone a chance on a strategic project or to do an initiative, that they're unafraid to delegate things that they thought they had to do on their own because they felt they were the only ones that were qualified to do it. And so building up other people is certainly a key component of leaders that I love to experience. I love to feel growth. I mean, there's lots of things that you may love in a leader. What is that for you? And have you really given thought to the fact that you may already be a leader, and that might mean that you lead without authority? Maybe it's even self-leadership. I hadn't really thought about that, but some of us are entrepreneurs or solopreneurs or business owners. And in a lot of ways, there's this concept of self-leadership that needs refining. I mean, how do you like to lead yourself? What sort of standards are you trying to live up to that may be reasonable or not reasonable, or effective or not effective? And so that maybe that's a new topic to think about. I'll write that down for maybe a future one, this idea of self-leadership. Excellent. I always like taking notes. Super. I don't see any questions here. So thanks again for your attendance. We might bow out a little early. It is a holiday weekend. So my suspicion is there's a lot of folks just taking the day off, and good for you. You should, whether you're celebrating Easter or Passover or Ramadan. I wish you peace and goodwill, and that you indeed are the type of leader that you want to be, and that you emulate leadership in every situation that you're a part of. All right. Thanks for your time today, and we'll see you next Friday for Career Happy Hour. Bye now.